Nathaniel Carter, a wealthy and arrogant man, was the chairman of a large corporation that dominated the technology sector on the East Coast. At 42, he cut an imposing figure, tall, with a strong jawline, piercing blue eyes, and salt and pepper hair that enhanced his distinguished appearance. His custom-tailored suits and commanding presence ensured all eyes turned to him when he entered a room. Unmarried, he agreed to a bet that would change his life in ways he never imagined. He was used to winning, both in business and in life, thriving on fierce competition. Being extremely cold and somewhat ruthless to those who opposed his interests, he had no time for real relationships. To Nathaniel, people were either assets or obstacles. His penthouse apartment overlooked Central Park, a testament to his success and status. The walls were adorned with expensive art pieces chosen by interior designers to impress his guests rather than for any personal connection. The space, much like his life, was meticulously organized, pristine, and devoid of genuine warmth. At a lavish charity gala in New York, hosted at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, his close friend, Daniel Reynolds, issued a challenge that Nathaniel relished. Daniel, a fellow businessman who had known Nathaniel since their Harvard days, understood the man's competitive nature better than most. With a smirk and a mischievous glint in his eye, Daniel said, "Let's see if you can win, Nathaniel. I bet you wouldn't dare marry a woman who doesn't fit your normal type." The gala was in full swing around them, New York's elite mingling in their finest attire, champagne flowing freely as the orchestra played softly in the background. Known for dating extremely beautiful and high-status women, models, actresses, and socialites with slender figures, Nathaniel saw relationships as nothing more than casual flings. His dates were accessories, meant to enhance his image and satisfy temporary desires. He was momentarily taken aback by Daniel's suggestion, but true to his nature, raised an eyebrow and asked, "And what's the prize?" His voice carried the confidence of a man unaccustomed to defeat. Daniel, grinning and raising his glass of champagne, replied, $1 million to the winner. But you have to marry her and stay married for at least 6 months. Define different, Nathaniel challenged, his curiosity piqued. Daniel's eyes scanned the room, eventually settling on a woman across the hall. Someone like Evelyn Bennett, he said, nodding toward a short, chubby woman conversing with a group of art patrons. Someone with substance rather than just style. Nathaniel followed Daniel's gaze, studying the woman with a critical eye. Evelyn Bennett stood at around 5'4" with a full figure, ample curves, soft round cheeks, and a plump body that defied the conventional beauty standards he typically pursued. Her dark brown hair framed her face in loose waves, and she wore a midnight blue evening gown that embraced rather than disguised her curves. What caught Nathaniel's attention, however, was the way she commanded the attention of those around her. There was an undeniable confidence in her posture and an infectious laugh that carried across the room. "Evelyn Bennett?" Nathaniel questioned, his voice tinged with skepticism. "The curator at the Modern Art Museum." "The very same," Daniel confirmed with a nod. "Brilliant, accomplished, and completely immune to superficial charm. She's respected in her field and known for her impeccable taste in art, not to mention her sharp wit." Spurred on by the excitement of the challenge and the lure of the prize, Nathaniel agreed without a second thought. The woman Daniel had in mind was indeed Evelyn Bennett, a woman who defied Nathaniel's conventional standards of beauty. Beyond her physical appearance, she was everything he claimed to avoid in a partner: intellectual, independent, and completely unimpressed by wealth or wealth's sake. "Challenge accepted," Nathaniel declared, extending his hand to seal the bet. "But how do you propose I even approach her? We don't exactly move in the same circles." Daniel's smile widened. "Leave that to me. I happen to know she's looking for donors for an upcoming exhibition. Your contribution could open the door to a conversation." Nathaniel didn't know her personally, but to him, she was just another business deal to be won. He watched her from across the room, calculating his approach as he would a corporate takeover. A few days later, Nathaniel received more details about Evelyn from Daniel, who had done his homework. She was 36, had earned her doctorate in art history from Columbia University, and had worked her way up to head curator at one of the city's most prestigious modern art museums. She was confident, independent, and strong-willed, unlike any woman he had ever been involved with. She doesn't date much, Daniel informed him over lunch at an exclusive restaurant in Manhattan. From what I gather, she's focused on her career and has little patience for superficial relationships. This intrigued Nathaniel even more. He was used to being in control, and he wondered how he would handle someone who might not succumb to his influence. The challenge was becoming more appealing by the minute, not just for the bet, but for the novelty of it all. Their first formal meeting took place at an upscale restaurant that Evelyn had selected, an establishment known for its innovative cuisine rather than its exclusivity. When Evelyn arrived, Nathaniel immediately noticed her confidence. She wore a deep green dress that complemented her fair skin and chestnut hair, her curves evident and unapologetic. She wasn't intimidated by the extravagant setting or by him. Instead, she looked at him with unwavering confidence, her chin held high as she approached the table. "You must be Nathaniel Carter," Evelyn said firmly as she sat down, smoothing her dress over her full thighs. "And you must be Evelyn Bennett," Nathaniel replied, smiling confidently and holding out his hand. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, then shook his hand firmly. Her palm was soft, but her grip strong, reflecting the duality of her nature. "Let's not beat around the bush," she began, her tone straightforward. "I know why we're here. I know about the bet, the terms, and the conditions." Nathaniel's smile faltered, genuine surprise registering on his face. He hadn't expected this level of directness, nor had he anticipated that she would know about the bet. "I see Daniel has been talking," he said, recovering quickly. "Daniel didn't tell me anything," Evelyn replied, her brown eyes steady. "New York's art world is smaller than you might think, and gossip travels fast. Someone overheard your conversation at the gala and thought I should know." Nathaniel, surprised by her directness, remained calm. "But you agreed to meet," he said, curious as to her reasons. His eyes traveled over her face, noting the flush of her rounded cheeks and the determined set of her full lips. Evelyn paused before replying, taking a sip of water. "Let's just say I have my reasons. I'm not naive, Nathaniel. 6 months may seem short, but a lot can change in that time. If you think you can manipulate or control me, you're wrong." She leaned forward slightly, her curves pressing against the edge of the table. "I'm not some trophy to be won or lost. I'm a person with my own agenda." Nathaniel smiled, intrigued rather than deterred. Evelyn was proving to be a bigger challenge than he had anticipated, which only made her more appealing. There was something refreshing about her honesty and the way she carried herself with such confidence, despite not fitting society's narrow definition of beauty. "And what is your agenda, Evelyn?" he asked, genuinely curious now. She sat back, considering him for a moment. "That's for me to know," she replied with a small smile. "For now, let's just say I'm willing to play along, but on my terms." The dinner progressed, their conversation moving from the bet to their respective careers and interests. Nathaniel found himself impressed by Evelyn's intelligence and wit. She didn't defer to him as so many others did, challenging his opinions and offering insightful counterpoints. Days passed, and Nathaniel continued to strategize his next move. He was used to women falling for him easily, yet he found himself facing someone who had her own game. Their second meeting took place at a simple coffee shop, far from the glamorous venues Nathaniel preferred. Evelyn had chosen the location, and Nathaniel, curious, agreed. He wanted to understand her, and why she had agreed to what seemed like a temporary marriage. The coffee shop was a cozy establishment in Brooklyn, with mismatched furniture and the rich aroma of freshly ground beans permeating the air. When he arrived, Evelyn was already there, sipping tea with a serene smile. She was dressed more casually this time, in a flowing blouse and pants that accentuated her curves. Her chubby cheeks were flushed from the warmth of the shop, giving her a healthy, vibrant glow. She greeted him warmly, friendlier than when they first met, but still with unwavering confidence. "I thought you liked five-star restaurants," Evelyn teased as Nathaniel sat down, removing his designer jacket. "Sometimes it's nice to break the routine," Nathaniel replied, trying to sound casual, though he felt a little out of place among the eclectic crowd of artists, writers, and students. "They make the best chai latte in the city here," Evelyn said, gesturing to her cup. "You should try it." Nathaniel, more of a black coffee person, raised an eyebrow but decided to take her recommendation. When the waitress came, he ordered the chai latte, earning an approving nod from Evelyn. They exchanged small talk about the neighborhood and the cafe's history before Evelyn quickly got to the point. "If we're going to do this, I want to make a few things clear," she said, setting down her teacup. Her expression turned serious, her soft features arranged in a look of determination. "I don't care about your money or your lifestyle. 6 months is 6 months, and I intend to leave exactly as I walked in." Nathaniel studied her, sensing her sincerity. Evelyn wasn't the type of woman who saw marriage as a ticket to wealth or social status. Her full figure was comfortable in the worn armchair, her posture relaxed yet dignified, speaking of a woman secure in her own identity. "So, what do you want, Evelyn?" he asked, genuinely curious. The chai latte arrived, and he took a tentative sip, surprised by its pleasant blend of spices. "Freedom," she answered without hesitation. "Even though we're entering this arrangement, I'm not going to let you control me. I'll continue my work, see my friends, live my life. You have your own life, and that won't change because of a temporary marriage." She paused, her eyes meeting his directly. "I'm not going to be paraded around like some exotic pet either. If you're ashamed of being seen with a chubby woman, then this won't work." Her directness about her body type caught Nathaniel off guard. It wasn't that he hadn't noticed, of course he had, but her frank acknowledgement of it, without shame or apology, was unexpected. Most women he knew went to great lengths to appear thinner, using every trick from strategic clothing to extreme diets. "I'm not ashamed," Nathaniel replied after a moment. "Why would I be?" Evelyn gave him a look that suggested she knew better. "Please, men like you are always seen with a certain type of woman. Tall, thin, conventionally beautiful. I'm none of those things." "Maybe I'm looking for something different," Nathaniel countered, surprising himself with the sincerity in his voice. Evelyn's expression softened slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe you're just willing to endure 6 months with me to win your bet." She sighed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Either way, I have my conditions." Nathaniel smiled. It wasn't the answer he had expected, but he didn't mind giving Evelyn this freedom. For him, marriage was just a formality to win the bet. If she wanted independence, he wouldn't mind. In fact, it might make the arrangement easier. "Okay," Nathaniel agreed, taking another sip of his latte. 6 months, then we split up. You maintain your independence, I don't interfere with your life, and vice versa." Evelyn looked at him for a moment, as if to make sure he was really on board with her terms. She had entered this challenge with a plan and a determination to make things work the way she envisioned. Deep down, she knew Nathaniel might try to manipulate the situation, but she also trusted in her own strength to resist his influence. "There's one more thing," she added, her voice softer now. "This stays between us. The real reason for our marriage, I mean. The public story is that we had a whirlwind romance. I won't have people thinking I'm some kind of business transaction." Nathaniel nodded, understanding her need to protect her dignity. "Agreed. As far as the world is concerned, we're madly in love." A smile tugged at the corner of Evelyn's mouth. "Well, I wouldn't go that far. Let's just say we're two adults who found companionship and decided to formalize it." The wedding itself, held 3 weeks later, was cold and informal, more like a business transaction than a celebration. A small ceremony at City Hall, witnessed only by Daniel and Evelyn's closest friend, Sarah. No flowing white dress or tearful vows, just practical clothing, though Evelyn did wear a lovely cream-colored suit that complemented her curves and straightforward promises. Nathaniel, with his strategic mind, believed he had the upper hand, armed with his wealth and power. But from the moment Evelyn stepped into his penthouse, rolling her suitcase behind her and looking around with a critical eye, she made it clear that she wasn't going to back down. 6 months, Nathaniel. Not another day, she declared firmly, walking toward one of the large windows, unimpressed by the opulence around her. Her full figure was silhouetted against the cityscape, her chin held high as she surveyed what would be her temporary home. Nathaniel smiled confidently, used to initial resistance. He was accustomed to the game of power and control, and he believed he could win her over in time. However, as the days passed, he found that this game wasn't as simple as he had thought. Evelyn was unlike any woman he had ever met. She wasn't impressed by his wealth, nor did she fall for his usual charm. Every attempt to provoke or manipulate her was met with sharp words and unwavering defiance. One evening, about a month into their arrangement, Nathaniel returned home to find Evelyn in the kitchen, music playing softly as she prepared dinner. The sight was so domestic, so unexpected, that he paused in the doorway, watching her move around the space with comfortable familiarity. "I didn't know you cooked," he commented, shrugging off his jacket. Evelyn glanced up, her cheeks flushed from the heat of the stove. "There's a lot you don't know about me," she replied with a small smile. "I hope you like risotto." The meal was delicious, far better than the catered dinners he usually had. As they ate, Evelyn shared stories from her day at the museum. An eccentric artist whose work she was considering for an upcoming exhibition, a wealthy donor who had tried to dictate exhibition content, a school group whose enthusiasm had brightened her afternoon. Nathaniel found himself engaged, asking questions and even sharing some of his own experiences from the day. It was the most natural conversation they'd had since moving in together, and he was surprised by how much he enjoyed it. After dinner, as they sat in the living room with glasses of wine, Evelyn asked about his work, not the surface-level questions he was used to, but thoughtful inquiries about the challenges he faced, the decisions that kept him up at night. "Why do you ask?" Nathaniel questioned, unused to such genuine interest. Evelyn shrugged, her soft shoulders rising and falling beneath her blouse. "Because you're more than just your bank account. And your reputation, I imagine. I'm curious about the man beneath the facade." Slowly, Nathaniel began to realize that his interest in Evelyn extended beyond the bet. He admired her tenacity, her strength, and the way she stood her ground. He found himself noticing things about her, the way her entire face lit up when she laughed, the gentle curves of her body that he had initially dismissed but now found increasingly appealing, the intelligence that shone in her eyes when she spoke passionately. For the first time in his life, he found himself truly captivated by a woman. One evening, after a heated argument about his last-minute cancellation of dinner plans due to work, he found himself alone, staring out at the city lights. The sight that had once brought him comfort now felt empty. His friend Daniel's words echoed in his mind. "You're starting to care about her, aren't you?" Nathaniel tried to brush off the thought, but deep down, he knew it was true. This wasn't just about a bet anymore. He wanted Evelyn, not as a prize, but as someone who challenged him, someone who made him feel something real. The 6 months passed quickly, and Nathaniel realized he didn't want to let her go. He had changed, not because of the bet, but because of her. For the first time in his life, he wanted something more than just winning. He wanted her, and he was willing to fight for her. On the evening before their agreement was set to expire, Nathaniel arranged a special dinner. He had the penthouse decorated with flowers from Evelyn's favorite florist, prepared her favorite meal, with help from a professional chef, and selected a playlist of the jazz music she loved. When Evelyn arrived home, her eyes widened at the transformation of their space. "What's all this?" she asked, her voice tinged with confusion. "I wanted to do something special," Nathaniel replied, guiding her to the dining table. For our last night as whatever we are. As they finished dessert, Nathaniel knew it was time. He moved to Evelyn's side of the table, and to her evident surprise, knelt beside her chair. "Evelyn," he said, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "When we started this, it was just a bet, a game to be won. But somewhere along the way, it became so much more." He took her hand, soft and warm in his. "Stay. Not because of the bet, not because of the deal, but because I need you in my life. Because I've fallen in love with you, your mind, your spirit, your heart, all of you." Evelyn hesitated, searching his eyes for deceit, but for once there was none. He had changed, his arrogance softened by genuine affection, his coldness warmed by her presence in his life. Slowly, a small smile formed on her lips. "Maybe," she whispered, her free hand coming up to cup his cheek, "we can start over. Not as a bet or an arrangement, but as two people who want to see where this might lead." Nathaniel knew then he had won something far greater than any bet. He had won her heart, just as she had unwittingly won his. And in that moment, as he rose to embrace her, feeling the soft curves of her body against his, he silently thanked Daniel for the bet that had led him to the woman he now couldn't imagine living without.